Great. It's great to see you.
Excellent. Yes, likewise. Um, I'm thinking for this call, and you're welcome to let me know kind of what you're thinking going into it. I'm mainly thinking we
Yeah.
get a good idea of, where you're at in general to follow up on our initial call, and then we can go into breaking down um, the product side, what you're looking to provide for your solution, and then we can go into crafting an offer around that, or at least starting that discussion. Because there's always going to be refinement. There'll always be tweaking down the line. But really, my goal right now is to get us as far as we can in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. I was actually planning on kind of talking about, um, you know, well, what would you propose we start with, actually?
Mhm. What would help me the most and allow me to deliver the most value to you would be, I know that obviously this is some type of AI solution, but walking me through your solution, like actually showing me how much you have there in terms of website, what does your actual solution look like, because that will help me gauge of like where we need to actually start.
Okay, cool. Perfect. Well, I was actually planning on sharing my screen because I shared with you a Notion
Mhm.
just right now that has all the info that I'll be compiling, throughout the work that we do together. And this
Mhm.
is pretty much all the information you'll need regarding everything. Obviously, it's not completed because I'm planning on completing most of that with you.
Mhm.
But it'll be like a central way to, add notes and stuff like that. Um, so
Yes.
I added this scope of work that I already shared with just goes, through the different points that I'd like to discuss. And like you said, I completely agree. We should start with talking about the actual services that we're planning to offer. Um, but that's kind of like the plan I had in mind was to start with the services, figure out kind of the market fit, what kind of market segment we should target. And
Mhm.
then once that's figured out, then it makes sense to start looking at, what offers we should present in our campaigns, right?
Mhm.
Um, and once we have that, then we can figure out the actual, copywriting and the actual setup in instantly.
Mhm.
Um, so I could start with our services and kind of give you as much detail as I can for today. And then if you have more time, you could dive into our ICP as well. But like you said, we're an AI company. We do development for AI systems. Um, and like I mentioned in the first meeting, initially we were kind of doing anything and everything because we just wanted to get more deals, right? But it seems very clear to me that we should specialize in one or two things, become very good at it, and it'll be much easier for us to sell it as well because we have one or two clear offers that we can present. We know we're very comfortable with those offers. We know what we have to build. We don't have to start from scratch every single time. We have something, maybe a template that we can reuse and just change like 20, 30% of it for each client. Um, so yeah, that's the main reason why I really want to specialize and focus on a few things. I think it'll really help to scale and grow a lot faster. Um,
Mhm.
and like I mentioned, the things that I'm currently looking to focus on are AI sales systems, um, which, you know, should pretty much be in your, that should be in your world because it's pretty similar to what I'm actually asking you to help me with, actually. The only
Mhm.
thing is, um, I'm thinking of ways to kind of integrate AI into those systems to make the whole system fully automated, right? And I'll explain to you in more details what that means. Um, Obviously, like I said, I mean, there's so much hype around AI right now. If you look at OpenAI and how much, money they're raising, and there's definitely a lot of hype, and there's most companies in AI are not profitable. Um, but I genuinely believe that it'll stay in the long run. I'm not sure if, it'll take 5, 10, 20 years for things to settle down, but I do believe that it brings real value. Like for example, on my day-to-day job, I do a lot of programming, and I'm at this point I'm not even coding anymore. I'm just prompting the AI, and he writes the code for me, and I just go over it. I make sure that everything looks good. But at this point, what I'm doing is I'm building a plan first with the AI, and then I give it to the AI, and then he writes all the code. Well, it writes all the code for me, and I just make sure that everything looks good. So I can see it like from my own experience that it brings a lot of value, and I'm sure that um, those opportunities for increasing efficiency in business operations will reveal themselves more and more over time. Um,
Mhm.
so in terms of specifics, so like I said, the main thing are AI sales systems, and I kind of see them as two different types. Inbound, outbound systems. So inbound, it's it getting traffic and it kind of doing something with it. And outbound is you going after your own deals, kind of in a more like offensive manner, I guess. Um, and again, there's kind of two modalities, text or voice. How you implement those doesn't really matter. Typically, for example, inbound text would be a chatbot on a website, and but like the actual implementation will fully depend on the actual client and how they want the system to be implemented, right? Um, and obviously, voice the same thing, but with an AI agent that can take the incoming calls essentially. So I'll definitely start using no-code tools and simpler platforms that are kind of pre-packaged for those kinds of systems. And down the line, you could like rebuild those systems using more specialized technologies um, and make it more, effective, but that's not super relevant for now. And then outbound, the same exact thing. You have text. You could do an AI called email agent and the voice as well. This one is a little bit more speculative. People have tried to build this, but it's not super stable, so you have to get it right. But if it works, I mean, you can imagine how valuable that could be, right? You could, reduce so many, you could, I guess it sounds a little bit cruel, but you could let out, you could get rid of your worst performing salespeople and just have that run 24/7. Um, at that point, like it really is only about scaling and tweaking things and optimizing over time. But like theoretically, those systems have a lot of potential, in my opinion, and I'd love to hear what you think about that as well. Um, and The rest, I mean, I put a list here of other systems projects that we could, build for our clients as well. Um, but like I said, I'm really trying to focus on this, at least for this first email campaign. But like if a client comes up to us and says, "Oh, I need to build like a RAG system internally for our lawyers or whatever," then if the deal makes sense, then sure, we'll do it, right? Because it's still within our expertise. But when it comes to like doing outbound sales, I really want to focus on only these types of systems. Um, so yeah, do you have any questions? Do you have any thoughts so far about all of
Mhm.
this?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I appreciate you putting these together in a line of basically where your head is at with this right now. I will say I agree with your point on the AI outbound caller. It's hard to get right from what I've seen, but the approach and recommendation I would give you on this to start would be if you made a specific one for essentially one vertical. Let's just say an outbound caller that was calling CTOs for a um, like cloud storage software
Hmm.
to like save them money on their cloud storage. If you made one that was specific for that, you could obviously very it's an easier sell, and you could duplicate it relatively easily. It would be like plug in the company name and stuff like that. So that would be my recommendation on that front. As far as the other ones are concerned, um, the AI voice agent for incoming calls, I think that is a great one from the conversations I've had with other guys like you, some of the companies that I actually contract with. The AI voice agent for incoming calls is huge, especially for home service providers. And then also like healthcare teams. So like a small
Yeah.
doctor's office or like a like a one-man doctor's office, building those out makes a ton of sense. And we can break this down like step by step on what we need to do. But really, my just kind of theory and approach to this is really coming up with an offer and then driving traffic to that offer. The quickest and easiest way to do that would be with Card. I can't remember if I set you or I told you about Card. It's CARRD.O. You can make really cheap, landing pages on there. And so essentially my goal for you at a high level would be for you can look into Card and I can either handle it or I can tell you how to do it. But basically putting together a landing page for these different verticals and then
Yeah.
driving some traffic to that. And obviously this will definitely require you to have some type of outbound motion that could be cold calling, you
Yeah.
sending cold emails, you hiring somebody. But really my goal for this first week, once we kind of flush out offer and the main offerings we want to push out to the market, would be you getting up some type of landing page to push traffic to, because you don't even necessarily have to have the product built out. You could just get on a call with these people to validate, to see like, oh, they would pay this much for it, and then just tell them, hey.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So that would work as a landing page essentially.
Mhm. Yeah, like I can actually send over. I'll pull one of mine up, so I can, you can see what the finished
Yeah.
product would look like. Um, because really all that matters right now is just once we flush out the offer and all that. Like here's one that I'm actually building right now to help guys get started, like with contracts and working multiple sales contracts. So like here's the I call it the client stat. But you can kind of just see the kind of the concept and the idea here. Like, okay, one big claim with the offer. Here's the button for instant access, or in your case, book a call. Lots of
Right.
proof and testimonials. And obviously, we would change the copy to be very native to, okay, home service providers, or very native
Yeah.
to. I would recommend, since you're just getting started with this, you could go very, very, you want to go and you need to go very, very niche. So, for example, a company that I'm helping take to market in Toronto, we are only targeting naturopaths in Toronto and then some in Montreal as well. But we're not
Okay.
expanding out to other cities or North America. So I would say for you right now to validate this and get started and getting traction would be aim to get a landing page up to where you're targeting, Montreal. You can do Montreal naturopaths. You could copy them. You could do, um, Montreal doctors' offices. Although I would say doctor's office is a little bit too generic. You might want to do something like dental offices only. But the concept here is you could build out one voice bot and then have these, variables that you change for the different industries.
Yeah.
And we'll have to dig into the offer a little bit more, but I just want to make sure that you're kind of tracking on that so far.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. So would you, so the landing page, that would be what you redirect people to in the cold email campaign, or like just in general? Like how do you use it exactly?
Mhm. Good question. So the landing page is more so for inbound traffic, and I would at least want you to have some type of lander or web page set up, because what happens when you send cold emails out? Let's say we started sending cold emails to Montreal.
Yeah.
They're going to copy and paste that domain, and you can turn on domain forwarding, so it will, like, if it's a random domain, it'll push it to your actual one. but people are going to start to, look you up. They'll probably take a quick look at your LinkedIn. It's just how it goes. Um, if your offer is really, really good for front end cold traffic, the less you need in terms of assets for websites, stuff on LinkedIn. But it's kind of just an engine that never stops growing, and you can't really stop posting or putting assets out there, whether that's case studies or like landing pages. The landing page is just there to, honestly, it sounds very crude, but basically to make it look legit. Like, it's okay
Yeah,
to
yeah,
not have the product built out, but you just want to validate that, hey, I sent somebody a cold email. That they're going to look you up or copy and paste that domain. They're going to land on
yeah,
that landing page, and then they'll get back to you on the email. The email can be the call to action in the email can be offering them a Loom video. It can be offering them, obviously, a call, or like, hey, I can show you how this could work. But it's just a good idea to have a lander, because they're going to look you up or they're going to copy and paste that domain.
yeah, yeah. That makes sense. So you typically don't even like the call to action and the emails are not necessarily like, oh, book a meeting here. Here's my booking page. It could be this essentially.
Yeah. So primarily how I'll share some copy with you after the call, so like you can just see it and digest it. But
Okay.
a lot of my call to actions for my emails are very, you're trying to keep this as low friction as possible. So you want to get in front of them with the strongest offer possible. The best framework that you can do is back out of a case study. um, if you don't have case studies when you first get started, to get traction, you may have to give away stuff for free, offer stuff for free, offer a risk reversal, like, hey, you can try this for 30 days. If you like it, you can keep it. If not, no worries. Like, you may just have to do that to get your first initial traction. But as
Yeah.
far as the call to action is concerned in the emails itself, leading with the strongest offer that you can, letting them know, hey, we could do the same for you, or I'm happy to show you how it works. And then just asking them very calmly, like, would this be interesting, worth chatting about? Can I send over a quick 2-minute Loom video over it? Just keeping it very low friction, because all you're really trying to get
Yeah.
with that initial cold email is that response, and ideally a meeting if it goes well.
Right. Right. Okay. That makes sense. And so I know currently we do have a website. Now, I'll tell you right now, I know for a fact that something
Mhm.
like this would convert a lot better than our website, obviously. Our website just like to look pretty, to be honest with you.
Mhm.
Um, so should we have like something like this as a sub page in our website, or like it doesn't really matter, like we should keep it as a standalone website?
I just keep your main website as your main website standalone. The good thing about the card landing pages is you can use these to sub test. So
Right.
you could have two landing pages for, let's just say, dentist offices in Montreal, but the offers are different. And then you could have another two for dentist offices in Toronto, and have them split
Right.
testing as well in the offer. Because you'll see, like, I see this with my stuff with one of the companies, is like, you know, for whatever reason, during certain periods, like Montreal would perform better, Toronto would perform better. But my point being is, the landing pages, I mean, they're cheap to throw up. You don't even have to get an actual domain for it. It can have the card domain. Um,
Right.
but yes, that's where my head is at with that. And I think, ideally, with this, the because we can come up with a pretty strong offer, especially if we keep it local to Toronto or Montreal, excuse me. If we keep it
Yeah.
something local and hit some type of pain point, and I also have a document I can share with you too that's like very in depth with all this stuff. Um, and since you don't have case studies, one thing that you can leverage too is just talk to Chat GPT or Perplexity for a little bit, and talk about your solution, and then ask it to find um, like credible sources that back your claims. So start making some claims about what these AI callers could do, and then
Yeah.
go to Chat GPT, and it can pull up like, oh, Harvard said this or Stanford said this. And then you plug that into your copy, because technically it's not wrong for you to say, oh, this is backed by Stanford research.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. We actually do have case studies, but they're not for the systems that we're trying to sell right now. It's for other stuff that we did. For example, we worked with one of the largest U.S. commercial real estate brokerage firms in the U.S. called Northmark. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but essentially we built like an AI system that extracts data from lease agreements. And also, we also worked with 11 Labs, which is a huge company.
Oh,
So that could be very strong. The only thing is, it wasn't for AI systems. It was like a web scraping project. But like I'm sure we could put that name somewhere in the copy. I'm sure that would be useful at some point. But yeah,
okay.
that's yeah. But other than that, we have a lot of I mean, we haven't really built these systems a lot. Like we've built these once, so yeah. I mean, there's not a lot of case studies right now for that. Um,
Yeah, that's okay. I'm gonna put sorry, I'm just gonna put like an example in the chat. Like there's kind of a just to get you started and get you like ideating about this. That's kind of like a rough example of what you want to aim for with your copy if you can.
right. Okay. Yeah. 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 That makes sense.
That stuff.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I was just curious to know. You said you use Close as a CRM,
Mhm.
Close.com. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
close.io is what the actual TLD is, I think.
Yeah. I looked it up a few months back, and I liked it because it was like a very simpler version of what's out there. Like Zoho, for example, is a nightmare. I work with Zoho so much, and it's like it works, but like it's so ugly. There's so many things that they have, so many features, but they're like half good. They're not fully properly implemented. So
Mhm.
that's cool. I was planning on using this one anyway, but yeah.
Cool.
Um, Cool. And I wanted to ask you, like, more specifically to these about this. Like, obviously, your background is sales and cold outreach and all that. But what's your take on, you know, let's say cold email campaigns using AI? Because right now, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like when you build a cold email campaign, you're pretty much sending the same email to everybody, right? Or
So
not really.
yes and no, and I'll break it down and I'll explain it. So just to be transparent, like if we're talking about a solution that, for example, would help me, the ideal solution for me would be like you going into my email bison, like my sequencer, and it being something where I could just like talk to the AI chatbot and say, throw me up an entire, sequence and campaign copywriting for
Yeah,
XYZ. Here's the offer. Like if it could be a chatbot thing where it just sets it all up, that would be amazing. And like also just scraping the data from sources, that would be amazing. And that would be really hard to build. But um, so to answer your question on uh, cold email and how you set it up, so pretty much offer is king. Offer is what matters. A lot of people get caught up with like, oh, I'm going to use clay or like hyper personalization. Like, you know, I saw you were at the I don't know the Boston Tea Party 2 weeks ago. Did you see
yeah,
my friend Kyle there? Like that. Okay, yes, it gets people's attention. It may help the open rates like a little bit, but people are already becoming used to that. And offer is really king. Like if, for example, one of my other clients, it's like we're just offering our prospects like basically free profit for like 2 weeks, like not charging them anything. We don't need a credit card, like just an offer like that where you're just giving that.
right.
Absolutely rips on cold email. um, so like that's kind of where I would want your head to be at in general. And then to further expound on your question for the cold email AI stuff, there is a lot of AI elements that I use already, and other platforms like instantly use it, where it's like a spin tax feature. Do you know what spin tax is?
No.
So you can tell GPT to do this, but basically the spin tax is to avoid the fingerprinting into the inbox for cold emails. Is it basically tweaks the syntax of the email to go from like to greetings and across the
Right.
entire email, so it keeps you from fingerprinting and going into spam in the inbox for like Gmail and Outlook. So there are some features like that. I mean, ChatGPT is relatively good at writing copy if you can give it good examples. Um, but as far as like an AI system for cold email, that would be tough, um, because you're going to have to take into account, because cold email works off of CSVs. So every single
Yeah.
client that you bring on, you're going to have to take into account what what do their CSVs look like? Like what data have they already pulled?
Yeah.
Because to just like highlight this to show you the reality is like one of my clients, we scrape the Google reviews of who we're going to outreach to. So it's like, I saw you had 4.8 stars on Google. Congrats. That's really like that targeted personalization that's not cringy. But if you were to build a chatbot for that, that could like do that at scale or do that fast, um, it would be a good solution for that company. But for every other person that you sell on that solution, you're just going to have to be sure that they have that data, unless
Yeah.
you build a scraper to go along with that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. So the way that I was seeing, I mean, it's something that we've built already internally. It's
Mhm.
not super good, to be honest. The prompts need to be tweaked. But essentially what we did was, we just found leads on Apollo and then we scraped information on their LinkedIn and then we created a cold email from that. Um, but, if you're saying that the offer is actually the thing that has the most impact, then perhaps the AI value in these systems would maybe be mostly in the um, voice AI agents.
I believe, I think the voice AI agents, especially for handling the inbound calls, because when we think of who we're going to be selling to initially, it's going to be people that they probably have the budget for it if we're being realistic, but
Yeah,
they're slammed on time. Like for example, home service providers, they get tons of spam calls. They don't really want to spend too much time on the phone. They typically don't like sales. Kind of the same thing with like smaller like doctors offices. I've noticed that as well. When we craft this offer, we want to be thinking about how can we simultaneously save these people a ton of time while also having basically a return on their investment with like
yeah,
not even like directly correlated to revenue, even though it could be, but more so related to, hey, if you're a solo founder, or if you're running like it's you and an assistant or you and a co-founder, how much time and like mental bandwidth would you save every single day if instead of your phone going off 25 calls a day for no reason, what if it just rang once at the end of the day and gave you like a summary of every call? Or that's just my example.
yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So you would say what would you say would be like the system or like the service that you think would bring the most? Obviously, it depends on who you're targeting, but like as a general idea, like what would you say are from your instinct, like what would you say is the one that you would start with at least?
My instinct for a front end cold traffic offer would be the voice inbound option for the AI voice agent for incoming calls,
Right.
but making it industry specific.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, cool. That makes sense for sure. I mean, I've had conversations with the legal firm that I told you about, the owner, and
Mhm.
she told me that she gets many calls, like inbound calls, and they have like a full team of people that are supposed to answer the calls, but it's always too much for them.
Mm.
So I know that for sure there's value there. And there's also emails, like incoming emails that they have a full-time employee that only her only job is to read the emails and put the files like the attachments in the right folders. Um, so that's another idea as well.
You know,
But yeah, that makes sense for sure.
one thing that I mean, you could call him coach or mentor. I hate this title; it's kind of cringe. But Jake Valentine, Jake Valentine, he helps coach me and stuff. And he put out something the other day on Twitter, and I think it would be huge for people that are, they're relatively popular on Twitter. And I'm not even
Yeah,
talking influencers. I'm just talking about people that have a business and they have cash flow. One thing that annoys them, and even me, like I'm not that big, I'm pretty small. I have like 600 followers on Twitter. I don't even really tweet that much. But the amount of DMs that I get, especially like on LinkedIn, and I know for Twitter as well. But if there was something that, and it would be difficult to plug in, I feel like, but if there was something that would
yeah,
like auto filter the DMs, or like even if it's something, if it could be like a one time purchase, like
yeah.
kind of like clean my Mac, where it like goes in and it cleans everything. If you built out like an AI solution that was like cleaning the DMs like once every week or something. Um, I think that would be a good solution too. But definitely to start, like where your head is at already, I would say the AI voice agent for incoming calls, and just make it very hyper niche specific. Like if you already have traction with law firms and you can leverage those companies that are adjacent, like 11 Labs, definitely like start with that. That's the lowest hanging fruit.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. Um, and I also wanted to go over these ones because they seem very interesting from afar, simply because, for example, the chatbot, the chatbot that we built for the legal firm that we didn't even deploy yet, but essentially, I know for a fact that they bring in like 3 to 5 clients per day. And each client starts with the first fee is 2,500, right? So if you do the math, let's say it's only three per day, right? For 30 day, um, they make at least 200-ish, 225,000 a month in revenue. And then every time that they need to do something else for the client, they charge a new fee for whatever it is, I don't know what they do, but they offer something else. Then on top of that, there's more. And, in the industry that they're doing, essentially what they're doing, quickly, I'll explain, they're defending workers to get compensated by the government when they get injured or stuff like that. So even sometimes one of the cases may get paid out, tens of thousands of dollars, even sometimes more, and they get 25% of that. So the customer lifetime value of that business could probably be somewhere close to like 5,000, potentially even more than that. Um, and what I saw to be interesting is the fact that if we simply plugged a chatbot on their website, and the chatbot, all they had to do is answer questions and then create um, book a meeting for that client or that lead, then we could easily grab a percentage of that, there's a month of revenue um, for that client, and then we could charge that a month. So that's kind of how I saw it. I'm not sure what you think of that.
Mhm. I would say, and back to my point I made, um, like that's adjacent to that. I always recommend starting where you already have some traction. And so if you already have like a relationship with them, you're already talking with them, just build off of that and be like, hey, like we're already building this for you. We already started on this. I have this idea for XYZ. And also too, if it's not hard for you to build, like if it doesn't really take that much time, just try to, spin something up quick and like, hey, I made this, quick mock-up example for you. It's not polished, obviously, but this would help with a lot of your inbound and your onboarding. it would speed your team up by XYZ and save this person time. So it's saving you XYZ money to help increase your deal flow. So that's how I would
Right.
position it. Um, and you could, you know, just start with that, and then you could always too. I mean, keep in mind it's a game. It's like, if they turn you down for that, we'll try other law firms in
Right.
Montreal and start trying to see if they want to pilot it. And then you can always go back and say, like, hey, we went to law firm B and they actually started using our chatbot and it saved them XYZ time. So to answer your question on developing like the solution and the product side of things, I would be sure to just start where your lowest hanging fruit is. Double down on that as much as you can until you hit a roadblock, and
Yeah.
then it might make sense to really build out like the voice AI agent for the incoming calls. I do recommend that anyway, though. I think that's a good one.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we've built both of them, so it wouldn't be too
Okay.
complicated to spin something for someone else. Yeah, that makes sense for sure. And have you explored, in your own, with your own clients, like have you explored the revenue sharing structure with clients where you build out this cold outreach system for them, and then you charge only a percentage of whatever you
Mhm.
generate for them, or is it only better? Um, is it only attractive on paper than in reality?
Yeah. Oh, like the percentage like revenue share model.
Yeah. Is
Mhm.
that a real thing? Like, have you explored with that in the past?
Yeah. So the and this is me speaking about it from a cold email perspective. A lot
Yeah.
of cold email. So the cold email equation is, I think I told you before, offer times volume. So a lot of the time, I can work with a client, I can consult them, I can, try to rework the offer. Some clients are very stubborn and they don't want to change their offer, or they just don't have a lot of confidence in it. And therefore, that no matter how many cold emails I send, what the targeting looks like, no matter what the copy looks like, the results are always just going to be a little bit subpar, just to be transparent.
Yeah.
So, like, it definitely takes a good offer to make that work. And therefore, I do have one client where it is like it's a retainer plus a rev share agreement. But I really don't aim for those unless I'm like, hey, this is like next 5, next 10 years, like locked in. Like, I've met the founder in person. It's a good relationship, because really starting off early, I would focus on revenue, or yeah, I would focus on revenue in through
Yeah.
retainers or setup fees, and always kind of aim for some type of kickback. So an example of this in the cold email world is like, if I brought you, 20 calls for the month, on call 21 for the month, I would get a bonus for like $200 for that call, or example. So like, you can
Right.
maybe set up some type of agreement of, hey, for handling your inbound calls, it's X amount a month flat rate. But then after, like, have the kind of like freemium, and then have like the tiered pricing. So like, oh, after your 300th, I don't know what the right numbers would be, but like after your, 300th inbound call for the month, where, for every other call after that, we're going to start
Yeah.
taking 99 cents every call, or however you want to structure it.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting. Because the reason I'm asking is because initially I was thinking of, you know, at least to start building these ones for about like, I don't know, like 3,000 each, US, let's say. Um, but then when I did the math, using, for example, the legal firm that I was talking to, it seemed like, you know, even if we picked up only a few leads from the chatbot, let's say per month, it would be a lot more than 3,000, not only for the first month, but like that would be recurring every single month, even though we built it only once, right? So
Mhm.
that's why I was thinking, that's something that we should probably consider. Maybe not when we get started, but like down the line, because you get paid every month, even if you're not doing any additional work, right? Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, that was kind of my thought process.
Yes, it can be something you aim for long term, for sure. And I would. Do you want to cover the other project types that are down there in that paragraph? So you scroll down
Um,
there.
I mean, no, I mean you could go through them, but like they're not
Yeah,
super interesting or relevant to be honest, at least for now.
I
Because
would.
I'm
I
really
would
tr
sell. Yeah, I would sell those on the back end for sure. Like close the initial one and then sell like, hey, I can enrich your leads or do some type of scoring. So
right,
cool. Um,
right.
what do you want to cover for the last 15 minutes? I would recommend we try to flush out the offer for whatever we want to
Um,
select.
sure. Honestly, right now I don't have a lot.
Mhm.
But well, did you want to go through the ICP real quick to kind of get the that out of the way? So essentially, I put this together. It's not super precise, obviously, but it's just to kind of give us an idea. Like I said, right now, legal firms is like the one that I feel would be easiest because I have background with legal firms. I've worked in a legal firm. Both of my siblings are lawyers, so like I have a lot of background in that. Commercial real estate sounds interesting, but I'm just not sure. It sounds interesting because every deal could be a lot of money. Like you close one deal, it's worth your commission is like 100,000, right, on a few $1 million, right? Um, but I guess ultimately, as long as the customer lifetime value is high, then it's probably a good niche anyway, right? Um, so yeah, and you mentioned starting locally. I have no issue starting locally, to be honest with you. The only thing is obviously here in Quebec, most businesses operate in French. So we would have to kind of deal with that translation when we build systems, which is not a big issue, but like I was thinking maybe only start with English first and then target something, businesses in Quebec then after. Once we have like the structure set up already, we know what we're doing. um, so maybe like Ontario first, Toronto, Ottawa, parts like that. That could maybe be a little bit more easier to get started. Um, and for the rest, I mean, the rest is pretty straightforward. Um, yeah, I mean, it's not super precise. Ultimately, like I said, I think ultimately the big thing is the CLV. As long as it's high, it's because we're going to be doing the same work no matter what business we're working with, right? So I bring 10 clients for a business that has a low CLV, then it just we're doing the same work, but we're bringing the less value. So ultimately, it's just better to do the same work, but for a business that has a high ticket, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, does that make sense?
Yes, no, it does. And that's good that you're already thinking like that because, yeah, if you work with a client that has like lower LTV, it's always a pain because you could bring them a ton of calls or whatever. I'm talking cold email, but you could bring
Yeah,
them a ton of value. But it's just hard to overcome that initial roadblock of them being a little bit more tighter on revenue and all these things. So
yeah,
I would say for your ICP, and I can pull this up right now real quick. I'll search for it. Get as specific as you can on like one like microcosm of that sub niche. So like for example, like I wouldn't say like legal firms in North America. That's
yeah,
very very broad. So I would try, and this one that I'm sharing with you right now, this is even this is still pretty broad. But you can see kind of the detail that I put into it. Um, of like, okay, what's their exact revenue, job title we're reaching out to, what's their tech
right,
stack, are they hiring? Because obviously, like hiring is a pretty good sign of growth. Um, and there's some stuff in there too with like the copy. Um, it's not the best
right.
copy, but this works a little bit better for enterprise. Um, but what I would want to see you kind of like step into next would be further developing that ICP to get into those sub niches of These are even going. Here's one thing that I've done to book with like Hogan Lovells. They're the 14th largest law firm in the world. Is I highlighted that they were. I went after all of their IP lawyers, so intellectual property, and I
Yeah.
highlighted that they had recent news that came out that said they were growing in the DMV. So if you think about it from that angle, if you can like gather the data and put together a copy that's like, hey, we specifically help intellectual property lawyers,
Hmm.
get more clients every month with AI chatbots that do X while reducing Y. Let's have a chat. That's kind of how deep you want to go.
Okay. Okay, that's interesting for sure. Yeah, I could put something together like this for let's say like legal firms in Ontario and yeah, maybe some other niche like commercial real estate firms in Ontario as well. I don't know. Uh, but we should start with legal firms for sure because that's
Mhm.
like that makes sense. Um, cool. Awesome. Oh, I guess I mean we could start looking at offers, even though we don't have a lot of time, but we could just, start from there next time. Um,
Yeah.
but essentially,
Yeah.
what I was thinking for offers, obviously there's always this, free consultation, free audit. That's like the most typical one, I guess. Um, Also, the one that I told you about, like we build it for free. I said that to the legal firm owner, and she was like, she looked interested when I said like, oh, I'll build those AI systems for your business for free, but you only pay me if we generate revenue, like I said, 15% for 12 months. And I mean, she agreed very quickly. Um, so that could be, whether the only thing is like this is only an idea. I'm not sure if it'll actually work, but that could be something that could be interesting for some businesses that are like tight on money right now and they want to get the growth without upfront cost. But that's just an idea, to be honest with you. Like it hasn't been proven yet. Um, but yeah,
So I'll say this. Um, for your offer, I mean, it's definitely good, and this is something that will take some time to break down. So
yeah,
I'm not opposed to giving away like a stuff for free on the initial cold email. So what I mean by that is like a free consultation, a free strategy, a free walkthrough, a free demo, a customized Loom video. But where you can get into trouble is where you start to just offer free customized work to people because it does
yeah,
become a bottleneck. So if you're wanting to offer like free work for people, what I would say is you build this out and create some type of like systemized chatbot for legal or whatever. And if you're really looking to productize this, you would create like a freemium option. So this is where obviously early on, I want you getting on sales calls. I want you running the discovery calls, talking to these people, because that's where you'll be able to run into the objections and you'll get a good idea for like establishing a thorough, product market fit. But as far as the offer itself is concerned, or let me backtrack. As far as offering like free work is concerned, I would build some type of template that you can duplicate kind of over and over again. Um,
hmm,
and that can very easily either be demoed or they can have access to like a freemium where they can have, maybe like two people do like a walkthrough on the chat. So some ideas that come to mind initially would be like, um, we'll help onboard your next two clients completely using AI to save X amount of time or X amount of dollars. But the offer itself, and we'll dive into this next call, the offer itself is more complex than just the CTA itself. So the CTA, like we were talking about earlier, like you just said, could
yeah,
be, hey, we'll build this out for free. But when you're really thinking about the offer is like that entire example I sent over. So we did X for another legal firm in Toronto that resulted in, you know, 30 new onboardings in half the time without adding an additional team member. We can do the same for XYZ law firm. If we don't, I wouldn't guarantee this one like this because it's difficult to quantify your results. Um, so this is where you would add in like happy to show you a free demo, or like even an offer that works really well that I've been leveraging is either calling or cold emailing and validating that they can take on more clients or more work, and be like would you have the availability to take on, 2 more clients next week? You're like, yes, Will, I would love that. Okay, cool. I can go ahead and get you set up with this system that's going to go ahead and push you 2 new legal clients. Obviously, you're not controlling deal flow with your offer, but just pretend, hey, I can go ahead and get you set up with an offer that, or I can go and get you set up with our system that will push you new legal clients for the next, 2 weeks. And those are completely, no strings attached. You don't need a credit card. I just want to show you how it works. So to customize this a little bit further for you guys, this could be something where, what could we do? We could offer them, if I was calling these law firms to sell like the inbound stuff for you, I'd say, hey, we could go ahead and set this up for you to onboard your or like help onboard your next 2 clients for completely free. You don't need to give us a credit card. We just want to show you how much time it can save you and how it works. Would it be fair to, set that up? And if you can set this up in a way where it doesn't cause them too much of like a tech stack burden to like implement it, and
Right.
or even if you can throw it up on like a fake website or like something like that, I think that would really work. Because if you can show these people firsthand that, hey, you save them time, you save them money, and you didn't have to go about it by like taking down a credit card or anything like that, that would build you a lot of trust and a lot of authority, like just in the Canadian market and the legal space in general.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'd have to think about how that really, that look what that looks like. But for example, like a chatbot, the one that I was talking about, it's literally just a piece of code that you have to put inside the website. So that
Mhm.
could be an example. It's the only thing is like it would be a little bit awkward if after 2 weeks, it didn't really, you didn't close those 2 clients that you said you were supposed to.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that makes sense. So kind of like some sort of like free trial basically
Yeah,
that
some
brings
type
actual
of
results.
either some type of just free trial initially, because really with where you're at right now is like you have that one law firm. We just need, some more validation from other competitors, like other competing law firms. And as we get that validation. Okay, one thing too. Sorry, I'm brain's a little bit fried, but I'm trying
No
to give you
worries.
as much giving you as much sauce as possible. Is run outbound for these guys, like cold emails, cold calls, and just ask them for market research calls. Don't ask them that, but in the copy itself, you know, how I would cold call people for this is like, Marco, I've been speaking to other lawyers over in Toronto the past couple of weeks, sharing some strategies about how they're leveraging AI to and then insert like the outcome. So whatever the outcome would be, or the goal, um, helping these lawyers, double. I always think double revenue, but like helping these lawyers, save half of their time and cut a little bit of overhead cost every single week. I just wanted to loop you into the strategies being used by some of your industry peers and other firms, and also just kind of gather some of your own insights as we're building this out custom to lawyers in Toronto. And you were on my list to reach out to. So the best thing that you have going for your advantage right now is you have a ton of time, so you can like outreach to these people and get a really personalized feel. Because starting early with like a market research call, you get to learn what the market like actually wants. It's not you building off of like what you think is good, or or even what I think is good. You're building off of what these lawyers actually want. And then the second part is like you already have that connection, you already have that trust with them. So then the next step of the conversation, I went ahead, I built out the code for like the website. could we just plug it in and try it for a week? And then if you like it, would it be fair to, engage with me on a, if it works out well, just something like that.
Okay. So on that call, you're essentially giving them the research that you found and you're asking them about their own business, kind of like in a very casual way, essentially.
Yeah, like you could definitely like share some stuff of like, hey, we worked with XYZ law firm and they told us this, they told us this. I'm curious if you're experiencing the same. And then once they start telling you kind of some stuff about their current situation, their pain point, and I can give you sales training and stuff, but like, get their current situation, get their pain, and then get like where are they trying, what like future pace. So where are they trying to go?
Yeah.
What like what's the goal? And then obviously you just tie your solution into that. Okay, well, it sounds like your admin is spending a lot of time handling all of these inbound requests and might be taking up too much of her bandwidth, and it's affecting the overhead a little bit. So I have this chatbot for you guys. I can obviously customize it to what you need, but I could plug in the code this week on the website, and we could have it up for 2 weeks, and then if it helps with the spend and you feel like it's a good fit, maybe it would be fair to bring me on and we could just start at like a, would that be fair? And most people, some people might say no, but most people, they'll be like, yeah, sure, we can give it a shot. And then worst case scenario, let's say it doesn't work out. Let's say it's just not a good fit, or maybe they're an asshole and they're like, ha, we use this guy for free for 2 weeks and whatever.
Yeah.
Then just like use them as a case study, like literally just like, and then take that case study and then go to the people that didn't say yes first and be like, hey, we did it for this law firm across the street. I don't see that you guys are using it. Let's plug it in.
Right.
Right.
Right. Cool. Awesome. Well, that's great. Um, yeah, I think we can stop here for today and
Mhm.
then pick up probably. Well, what would be like your next availability for the
Mhm.
next maybe like